you.
Welcome, folks. We'll be getting started in just a few minutes, so feel free to grab your beverage to sip today during Sip and Pitch, and we will see you in a few minutes. Welcome, everyone, to NGLCC Sip and Pitch Fridays. For those of you I haven't had the pleasure of meeting yet, my name is Lauren Schweppe. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm our Director of Programs and Stakeholder Advocacy here at NGLCC. And I'm so excited that everybody could join us for this afternoon's April Sip and Pitch. Hopefully you all are getting some nice weather now that we're heading into spring. We're so excited that you've joined us. And before we get started, I have just a few housekeeping items. If you don't mind just hovering over your name, clicking those three dots and renaming yourself to add your pronouns here on Zoom, that would be great. Also, please ensure that you are muted throughout if you are not speaking, so we don't have any interruptions during today's Sip and Pitch. After our pitches, we're going to have some community and conversation, so stick around, don't head out after our fantastic pitches, as we'll have some opportunity to hang out and talk in this little virtual setting here before we head out for our weekend weekends. And lastly, don't forget to get your beverage. It is Sip and Pitch. I have my cinnamon chai tea that I'm drinking today, but whatever your beverage of choice is, feel free to grab it now. Without further ado, I'm excited to introduce today's Sip and Pitch judges. Kia Grant is the Supplier Diversity and Sustainable Sourcing Lead at Constellation Brands. Chris Cooley is the Supplier Diversity Manager at US Cellular, and Elisa Mitchell, the Director of Supplier Diversity at Wesco. We are so excited to have you three with us to help with today's pitch program and to give some great feedback to all of today's pitchers. Now I'm going to talk about some of the rules and guidelines for today's Sip and Pitch. Each of our companies are going to have 5 minutes for their pitch. Please, only one presenter from each participating company. After the pitches, our judges will have 10 minutes to deliver their feedback and their Q&A. No presentation, no problem. The program is designed to be informal and give you real-time feedback on your company's pitch. As I mentioned, if you're not speaking, please just make sure that you mute your microphone. And our team, NGLCC, Sarah Bell from the team, or I believe it's Jesse actually from the team, is going to be providing warnings at 1 minute and at 30 seconds. We'll have a timer up here on the screen. So you'll see you'll hear Jesse's voice letting you know how much time you have left. This is a judgment-free zone. This is all in the spirit of collaboration and to help you enhance your pitch. So most importantly, we just ask you to have fun. Without further ado, I am very excited to turn it over to our first pitcher today, Lee Zuvinich from APSTA. Lee, take it away.
Hey everyone, will I be able to screen share? I should have asked that before. It looked like it wouldn't let me. Okay.
Yes, you should be able to, Lee.
Okay, let me get that going. So I've got a really interesting, probably first half of my pitch to share with you all. I am the CEO of a couple of different companies, Adva Digital Solutions, as well as APSTA. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Does it show transitional justice moving towards a safer future?
Yep.
Okay, great. So I'm a little derailed today because we launched this, me and my co-founder launched this nonprofit this week, and I would really like to use my time just to share it with you all before I transition over to what I planned for the pitch today. So I'm a trans man in Missouri, and as you all may know, our rights are being legislated away as of Monday, I believe. So I reached out to my community, and we very quickly launched an initiative that helps people who are at risk get housing on an emergency and transitional basis between 1 and 8 weeks in refuge states. So if you're interested in that, that's kind of my main focus right now. You can go to transjustice.io, you can donate or get involved. So I realize there are judges and maybe I just blew my points or whatever, but still is really important and I'm really excited to share it with you all. So I'm going to transition now over to APSTA, which is the startup that I launched about a year ago. And before I screen share, I'll just give you a little background. So I have been at agencies on the enterprise level for about 7 years, building apps, helping founders build apps. And I've seen a huge gap in the market where agencies struggle to support these founders and founders are often taken advantage of. So I built a pricing engine. So if you're a small business owner that has ever had to go get pricing for a website or an app, you've probably been through the hellscape of going from one agency to another, trying to get pricing, not understanding what you're hearing, and the prices are all over the place. So my goal with APSTA is to standardize pricing across the industry because that's completely possible. I'm using a model for pricing that we've used across every agency I've ever been at. I've been at 5 agencies at this point, and I've helped probably 200 founders. So founders can come here and they can just select different features from our app. And actually, I think I don't know why it's not letting me select it, but it should let you select it, puts it over on the app features side. And then once you've got all of your features selected, you can submit your quote. And then your quote will go over to a comparison screen. And I think I'm having a classic like crash in the middle of a presentation situation. So if I need to just send assets out later, I can. You can also go to apsta.co to follow up with me. But basically the value add to the community is not just that you can get a pricing engine, it's also that agencies get direct access to founders to advise them, give them fractional CTO support on demand for free, with the hope that they can build that relationship. But in the meantime, founders get that free support. And then kind of the linchpin to me is that me and my team, which have been building apps for 5 years, we come behind all of these relationships and we guarantee the code quality. So if you know anyone or if you've ever experienced getting taken advantage of by a vendor and not even having recourse or knowing what to do, I'm hoping to solve that problem once and for all. So if you have an issue with a vendor and you've purchased that app or web app or website through our platform, my team will come in and fix your code qualities and we'll guarantee the highest level of code quality that is industry standard. So I'm going to see if I can log in, but I'm also having trouble seeing a timer while I'm screen sharing. Can you guys give me a time check?
You've got about 2.5 minutes.
Oh God, okay, cool. Well, if I can't log in, which hopefully I can, but if I can't, then I may just want to go ahead and ask questions, but I'll continue. I'll try one more time first. And maybe I'll describe the buyer experience a little bit more. So a common question that we get asked is, how can we standardize pricing? Every agency seems to do it a little bit differently. And basically, at every agency I've worked at or consulted at, you can boil down every feature or workflow to, I would say, maybe 150 to 200 workflows or elements. So this is a good example. At mobbin.com/dictionary, they show examples of workflows so that if you're designing an app, you might want to get examples and ideas for your launch screen or your about section or your terms and conditions screen. And just instead of looking at the 4 apps that might have something interesting on your phone that works for what you need, you can come here. So based on this concept and the way that I've seen founders shop, I rolled out the concept that they would be able to just pick and choose the things that they want, and then it would be pulled through our pricing engine and they can get bids in real time. So to my knowledge, no one else is doing this at this point. Everyone else in this space is a broker. And if you go anywhere on the internet, one example of a competitor is brief.com, BREEF. They say that they'll connect you with marketing companies and PR companies. So you kind of do this experience, you select what you need, you hope that you're going to get some bids and get some information, you click submit, and then you see a screen that says, well, we'll get back to you in 1 to 2 weeks. So that's where the rest of the industry seems to be at right now. Conversely, another indirect competitor that we have is Upwork or Fiverr are a couple examples. So you go to Upwork or Fiverr and you say, I think I need a package, or I'm going to hire a developer, and you have the same exact problem at Upwork or another example.
30 seconds left.
30 seconds, thank you. Buyers don't understand how to compare these different agencies. So this is an example of a system built for an agency. As a buyer, you might not understand what this means, or like if you should go with this company or this one, or if their pricing matches their value. So our goal is to make that very, very simple for the founder and meet them where they're at, and then hold those companies that are servicing them accountable. And that's it. That's all I got. Thank you all.
Awesome. Well, Lee, thank you so much, and way to work through those technical issues. Also, I really appreciate the work that you are doing to protect our trans siblings in Missouri. That is really admirable and important work. And I'm glad that you took some time at the top of your presentation to talk about that. So now I'm going to turn it over to our judges to start our judging feedback. So Kia, let's start with you.
Hey Lee, thanks for presenting. I have a couple of questions. How long has your company been in business?
So the one I just pitched, right? AppSta?
Yeah.
I believe we LLC'd maybe a little over a year ago.
Okay, so that would be important to pitch, right? I want to know how long you've been in business. I think highlighting your differentiators versus highlighting your competitors is also important. Unless somebody asks you about your competitors, I wouldn't mention them in your pitch. And you talked about like not being a broker. That's a huge competitive advantage, right? And that's a huge differentiator. You talked about the years of experience of building apps. I think that's really something to highlight and to is also a differentiator. And the fact that you have these indirect competitors and you don't have a direct competitor is also a highlight. So I would like really start in like, you know, talk about those. And then I would want to understand, you know, more about your app and what you do. One other thing, you kept saying agency, and there might be some people who might be like, well, what agencies are you talking about? You know, marketing, ad agencies. Be very specific in your language, and don't assume that people know what agents or like what you're talking about. So I would like kind of like dumb it down a little bit, if that makes sense. I hope this was helpful.
That's so helpful. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for that feedback, Kia. Chris, I'll turn it over to you. Chris, I think you're muted.
Let me mute myself.
There we go.
Thank you for putting forward some information at the top of your presentation that was very near and dear to you, and very topical and very important to share. So I'm curious to learn more. Please don't think that you sunk anything by starting with that by any means. And let me just kind of follow up with Kia for like what she was observing, but maybe too, I'm curious to know like who's your target audience? Are you going for like smaller companies, larger, everything in between? And so to kind of help us understand more about who you're targeting in that space. And I might also be curious to know, and this is, I might be your target audience because a lot of the screens that you were sharing, I was a little confused of what you were showing about like what Clutch is or Mobin, however you pronounce that. And so those aren't your offerings, they're just tools that kind of help define your offering as well. So maybe a little bit more understanding, albeit a very quick 5 minutes to help understand what I was seeing.
Got it. Thank you. That's really helpful.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. And last but certainly not least, Elisa.
Hi, I think my the two captured most of the notes, but I think I agree with the understand that who your target audience is you're speaking to, so that you have the correct terms that they'll understand, some clarity. And to Chris, I did get lost a little bit, and then I understood, and I thought, well, this is really neat. So I think capturing that excitement right at the, you know, just, hey, this is the strong points right up ahead, and then kind of then get into the actual and this is what the, you know, what we're doing, right? I think that's that would make it nice and clean. I think I just kind of clean it up a little bit. I think it's good, really good, exciting stuff. And thank you for sharing on what you're working on. Perfect stuff.
Thank you.
Well, thanks, judges, for that feedback, and Lee, great job. We're really glad that you could join us, and thanks for kicking off today's Sip and Pitch.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to turn it over now to our second presenter, Yuri Velasquez with Pixis Partners. Yuri, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to share screen. Can I share screen? Hold on. There we go. All right. So thank you guys very much for selecting Pixis Partners. This is very exciting for us. I'm going to start with a little story about how Pixis came to be. We are
Yuri, your audio is cutting out a bit.
Oh, hold on one second. Let's see. I apologize. It's raining here in DC, so the connection may be a little weird.
No worries. It seems to be better now.
Okay, great, awesome. Great. So thank you very much. And scene. All right, so my name is Yuri Velasquez. I am a senior associate here at Pyxis Partners. I'm going to talk about who we are, our mission, our vision, our values, what type of services that we provide, including a little bit about the membership that we belong to, and obviously highlight one of the clients that we work with. So first and foremost, we are a public affairs and social impact firm that aims to advance health quality, equity, health, access, and affordability. And Pyxis, the name Pyxis actually came to be. It's a constellation in the southern sky that represents the mariner's compass. So it's very fitting that we came up with this name because we chose this small collection of stars to characterize the work that we do. And obviously it aligns with our mission statement, which is to work at the intersection of health policy, advocacy, engagement. And we do recognize that solving problems, advancing agendas, it's not an easy straight line, right? Along the way, we'll have barriers to overcome and unknown grounds to navigate. But we do work at the intersection of all these fields. And we do recognize that working with our clients, our partners are true partners when it comes to this type of work. Our vision statement is to create equitable, accessible, and affordable health systems for all people living in the U.S., particularly with our brothers and sisters from the LGBTQIA community. And of course, we cannot do this without our core values, which are culture, compassion, capability, and client-centered. So this is where we are, the services that we provide, we are experts in all of these fields. So we develop and advance, create solutions to define pathways to progress and anchored all of the commitments that improve the lives of others. So when it comes to community engagement, I'm going to leverage that in the next couple of slides. But we do implement diversity, equity, and inclusion strategies to advance health in the hallmarks of all the community engagement expertise. And we are the leading consulting firm applying these principles to the community engagement and in medical research, clinical trials, and recruitment by focusing on reaching and engagement of the motivated individuals from communities that have been historically underrepresented in biomedical research. When it comes to policy, I think that our team has deep knowledge and experience in formulating and examining policy access through the fields of healthcare, particularly. And with the knowledge that we have as a team collectively, we at the front lines, we are expanding healthcare access and affordability and equity for the people in the United States. When it comes to government relations, our expert team has acquired and honed their government relations expertise throughout the years, and collectively we have over 40 years of experience from all of our staff. We have so it's whether it's the goal is navigating the FDA or Capitol Hill or White House or the government or what have you. It is through the collective expertise that we advise clients on how to effectively engage with the federal government and with these entities to assist the partners. When it comes to advocacy, our team develops a robust advocacy strategies, leveraging the personal stories from our staff and also from our clients to make sure that to drive the point when it comes to sharing their lived experience and personal experiences.
30 seconds.
Okay. I want to acknowledge my team. This is everyone who works at Pyxis Partners. As you can see, we are a diverse bunch and we're very fun. Basically, our membership are obviously besides NGLCC and we are also members of the local Equality Chamber of Commerce of DC, Q Street, and Diversity Alliance for Science. So this is one of the clients that I wanted to talk about. We work with the NIH, excuse me, All of Us research program, which strives to include a diversity and equality in research programs, and particularly in medical research.
And Yuri, you are at time, just FYI.
Right, sorry. So this is basically who our partners are in this research initiative. And there you go. So thank you.
Great. Well, thanks, Yuri. Great presentation. I'll turn it over to our judges now. So Elisa, let's start with you. Oop, Elisa, you're muted.
There we go. Sorry. So great introduction. I loved your vision, mission statement, right? Your focus, that was great. You mentioned partners. What kind of partners? I wasn't sure. Also on government relations, what expertise? Like who on your team? Is it a formal state procurement? Maybe there's someone from your team. I mean, to call those out, that's important. Maybe other government officials, attorneys that have been doing this for multiple years, maybe just a couple of like strong bullet points to kind of grab that customer that you're presenting to, right? Because you have to target your presentations for kind of whoever you're going to be in front.
Sure.
So if it's somebody who's looking for government relations assistance, I think sharing like, hey, this my lead, Jim Bob, right, was, or Michelle, you know, whatever,
Right.
is was a former state of California, you know, procurement director or something like that. Just kind of that kind of information is probably get you in, you know, might get you in the door faster. If they, you know, you have that expertise.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. That's makes total sense. There was, again, because of time, there was a slide with all the clients that we've had, which includes some of that, but yes, definitely.
Oh, perfect. Then that's perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. Great feedback, Elisa. Kia, we'll turn it over to you.
Hey Yuri, hey again.
Hi.
So you in the middle of your presentation, towards the end, you started talking about like how your team has 40 years of like navigating government agencies and provides advocacy. And I think you should lead with that. I think that's something that is important to hear, because that validates the experience of your team. And I think that it'll like draw people in, because they're like, oh, this company has like all this experience, and they're going to be able to, you know, help me, you know, through like roadblocks or whatever. You highlighted, to Elisa's point, memberships and partners. Why was that important? Why are those memberships and partners important to your organization?
Wait, so I actually should have also started with how long we've been in business.
Exactly.
Yeah, so 3 years, and
Okay.
so we are, as a small business in DC, we are, you know, we're starting, right? And
Yep.
I think when it comes to membership, particularly for LGBTQ organizations and affiliations, I think it's valuable to highlight who our members are, who do we belong to, rather than we're just, you know, LGBTQ owned. That's great, but I think if we when we highlight everywhere that we belong to, that we partner with, I think it's a stronger pitch.
And why did you choose those particular partnerships and memberships? Like, I think you don't have to answer that right now.
Yeah,
just
right.
Just that's
Correct.
to hear, like you're members of NGLCC, we're members of, you know, also these other you know, organizations, because ABCD. I think that's important to hear. And you answered my question about how long you've been in business.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great feedback, Kia. Thank you. All right, Chris, thoughts here for Yuri.
Indeed, thank you. So I'll just add on as well. I'm curious to learn more about that slide, and you don't have to go to it by any means, of your head count, if you will, of all the employees. Like you say you have 40 years of experience, but that slide had probably 50 people on it, maybe. So are they like full-time employees of yours? Are they kind of contractor when the topics come up? And I think I'd also be curious to see in a slide deck like this, your national presence of like, are they positioned across the country? Because as we talk about health and inequities of health and comorbidities, like different topics hit different areas, and it might be good to share the subject matter expertise on, you know, not just federal, state, local, regional kind of situation as well.
Great, thank you. No, I say to answer the first question, yes, some of them are interns who are just interning with us. But yes, that's a great point, and thank you for that.
And one more thing, Yuri, I had a conversation with a friend of mine who is Bronzu Vincent with Bristol Myers Squibb. And last year, I know we had a conversation about him looking for companies that provided like people for trials for medicine. So I'm not sure if they were on your like current client list, but that might be a good lead for you. I just want to throw that out there.
Perfect. I appreciate that. Thank
Okay.
you so much. Yeah. Thanks. And I want to also, before I leave, I want to acknowledge and thank the people from Pixis Partners who are on tuning in and supporting me. So thank you, Bobby and Meredith and Lisa. I think I saw you guys there. So thank you guys so much.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Yuri, and thanks, judges, for that feedback. I'm excited now to turn it over to our third and final presenter for today's Sip and Pitch, Misha Safran with CEEQ. Misha, the floor is yours.
Hello, I'm excited to be here. I'm going to set my own timer just so I don't go over. Thank you very much. I'm going to just do a little personal pitch. I just had shoulder surgery, so I'm smiling through a lot of pain. But that's what I do, and that's what I want to kind of present, because I feel like oftentimes, I'm not co-host yet. Oftentimes we find that we think we know what other people are going through, and we don't. So I just want to kind of give you a moment to think about, first of all, take a breath for yourself and identify what you're going through right now. You could be happy. You might be sad. You might be feeling connected or disconnected. And then take a nice deep breath into that. And then think about what the other people in the room are going through. What are they experiencing? You may not have a clue, but you can wonder. And you can put yourself as much into their shoe. Mine's kind of hard because I only wear a size 5, but other people wear a size 12. So just if you can give yourself the opportunity to think about, the reality is we don't know. We really don't know what anybody else is experiencing. So my name is Misha Safran, and I'm going to share my slides. I am a professionally certified and credentialed life coach. I've been a teacher for 30 years, teaching high school, middle school, community college, French and Spanish. And I was discriminated from my school district because of my disability and had to leave classroom teaching. And I miss my students. And I'll do a little pitch at the end. I just published a book. I'm doing my book launch on Sunday. It's a teacher's companion, how to center empathy and emotional well-being for yourself and your students. I'm an LGBT BE certified business. I've only been in business now for 8 months as an LLC. It is seek.org, CEEQ, Center for Empathy and Emotional Intelligence. The reason I'm here, the experience that brought me here, is all my years of educating a diverse community with diverse parenting backgrounds. My experience also led me here because of the crime and the hatred and the violence that I've seen in the world. White hatred, white violence, and violence on cultures against each other. My experience is that I care deeply. I'm an empath and a highly sensitive person. And I want to support others who don't feel deeply. I want to support others who do feel deeply, and I'm very passionate about that. I also have fabulous client satisfaction that I want to share with you, because even though my business is only 6 to 8 months old, I am not 6 to 8 months old. I have 35 plus years of experience, and I have a really wonderful heart. I'm not perfect. Don't put me on a pedestal. I make mistakes, but those mistakes do not define me, just like they don't define you. And if you're a leader in your organization, your mistakes don't have to define you either. And I'm here to help with that. So what I want to show with you is our mission statement to begin with. Obviously not to begin with, because I just told you a lot of other things. I think importantly, humor is essential in the right places, right? If somebody's pouring out their heart, we're not going to start making a joke, hopefully, because we want to make sure that we're, what I teach with folks here is that our discomfort is real, but when someone's really being vulnerable, we need to kind of keep in check our discomfort and be with it, because there are a lot of people in the world who don't have that choice. People who are black skinned, dark skinned, don't have that choice to walk out of the house and say, I'm going to be comfortable today. So when you're in discomfort, I invite you to check on that. And that's what I work with leaders. Check on your discomfort. Where is that coming from? Why is that happening? So our mission statement is to support with education and training and coaching, I should say, those seeking to transform the relationships in their workplaces, schools, and communities in a way that inspires creativity and nurtures authenticity and cultivates belonging and inclusion so that people can create positive, sustainable, and productive relationships, so that you have higher staff retention, you have more collegial relationships, you even have client and patient satisfaction or student satisfaction or community satisfaction. This is a long journey. We don't actually get to graduate, but I'm here for you along the way. So why empathy? And I kind of mentioned at the beginning, because truly, we don't have a clue what other people are going through. So we have to have empathy for ourselves, knowing that we're going to get through it. And we have to have empathy for others, not knowing what they've been through and why they're acting the way they're acting, but that we all have good intentions. We just don't always land with our good intentions in a nice way, right? Intention versus impact. So if we have good intentions, but it doesn't fall well, then we have to have empathy and understand that we can correct those mistakes. We can support people if we're willing to take a step backwards and look at our mistakes. Why emotional intelligence? Because our communication gets garbled. We have to be able to talk about it. We have to be able to support. What am I saying? Do you understand what I'm saying? I have a definition of the word rich. What's your definition of the word rich? I have a definition of belonging. What's your definition of belonging? So we can come to the same place. Almost. We don't always get to the same place.
30 seconds.
Oops, thank you. So that we can explore and enjoy each other, not chastise and shame each other, so that we can show and model what we really want valued. I have accolades. I don't need to share all of them. They're definitely on my website. Recently earned a CEO award from the NIH, National Institute of Health. I'm delighted to have had that experience to teach diversity and inclusion and belonging with them. And I want leaders to want a healthy workplace. And if you want a healthy workplace, I suggest giving me a call. Thank you.
Awesome, Misha. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lauren.
Judges, let's hear your feedback. I'm going to start with you, Chris.
Thank you so much, Lauren. And thank you, Misha, as well. So really appreciate the content that you're talking about. I think maybe to an extent you're preaching to your supporters here as well, in understanding the importance of your message and making sure that we are comfortable with where we are and that we have empathetic feelings for people around us. I like your logo as well. I took a quick look at it. There's a lot going on, but I think it also tells the story as well. So I really enjoyed that. And I feel like you got like the seek in there. If I saw it quickly, I think it was there too. One thing that I would have liked to seen in this slide deck, albeit 5 minutes, is what are your modes of communication and what tools do you use to train? Do you have pre-recorded? Do you have one-on-one? Do you do group sessions, keynote panels? Like what's your preferred mode, if you will, and what is there for your customers to select from?
That's a great point. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. All right, Elisa.
From the customers, I know you said, you mentioned education, but I would love to know, like, who are your contacts in that education, or your customers that you are working with, just like a high level, like you're presenting to somebody. So who are you going to go after? I'd love to know, like, hey, we just worked with X from the state of, University of California or whatever. Maybe a couple that would really kind of go, oh, she's really working with some great folks, right? And so I want to learn more. Kind of what I had there. Thanks.
Am I allowed to ask you a question? Okay, so previously I've worked with companies as a subcontractor, and now that I'm my own LLC, am I allowed to say the previous people I worked with, like NIH was when I was a subcontractor, but it's still me?
You have to ask them.
Oh, I
You have-
meant,
yeah, you have to get approval from that, to say, hey, can I just say, you know, I've worked with you, can I get a referral? Can I use a referral?
okay. Okay, and then if I'm going to work with someone, am I allowed to say that even though it's in the future? I mean, if I've gotten permission?
If you, it's tricky because then how are you measuring, like you hadn't worked with them, so there's no story, there's no history yet. I would
Okay.
shy away from that. I'm sorry, Elisa.
No, I'm,
No, that's perfect. Thank you.
thank you.
Yeah.
And y'all know I have
absolutely.
to run, so that's why I'm kind of like
Right.
getting here.
Yeah, I'm very new to all of this, so even though I've done a lot
Yeah.
of work, it's not been under
But
my name. Thank you.
referrals,
Yeah.
referrals are great to have in your back pocket, right? Because someone's gonna ask you, well, who'd you work with? I mean, you don't think of a name, but you can say, I worked with this lead for this, or you could just say for this university, and then get, you know, and then really kind of build that relationship before you really, and get permission, right?
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Thank you.
I want to know like what success would look like at the end of you being at a school or with a client. I want to see metrics. I want to see like how do you measure empathy? Like how do you measure what you've done with a university or school system or corporation? That would be important to see like what success looks like. So I think
Yeah.
it was good. It was really good information. You gave your history, the history of your company, of your experience, you know, of yourself. I think all those things were great, but I need to see like what success looks like, and then what again, like I need to see metrics.
And do those metrics come through like the evaluations and testimonials?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
maybe
Appreciate that.
if I could jump in too, I just thought of something else. So I think this is a question that you have to ask for yourself, and depending on where you want your company to go forward. Like, I feel like you put yourself a lot in your story of what your company is. And so do you wish your company to be you, or do you want you to be like your company to be larger than you, to be able to take on the work that the mission statement that Seek has, et cetera? And so I think, you know, as you grow, it's important to kind of keep that in mind, that you're talking about very important topics and you're talking about how they engage you. But maybe as you gain other team members and so forth, it's not so much about you, but does turn into the mission statement and work that your company is doing. So as you grow, just to kind of keep that in mind as well.
Yeah, great, great. Thank you all. Yeah, there's that fear of failure, but there's also that fear of success. So, so I don't know the answer to that question right now. Thank you. I got very emotional because I do have a disability and I have to work part-time making full-time money. So it's really challenging. So, but I really appreciate the opportunity, and a good thank you to Jesse too for all the emails and communication. Thank you for your help and time.
Well, Misha, thank you so much, and wishing you all the best in your recovery after your surgery. Thank you also to our judges so much for your feedback. Before we go into communities and conversation, I just want to ask for some closing thoughts. And Kia, I know you have to run, so we can start with you just on any closing thoughts you have on our three presenters.
No, this was great. I am honored. I always say like entrepreneurs are my heroes because you had an idea and you were able to execute. So keep up the great work, and you know, just incorporate what we've said. We know what we need to hear as corporations who are buying and, you know, meeting with suppliers. So, and please reach out to me if you have any additional questions or you need some guidance. I'm here. I love this. This is my life's work. So whatever I can do to be a great steward in your success and journey, I'm here. So thank you.
Thank you, Kia. Elisa, final thoughts. Bye.
You know, great work, everybody. It is a passion. I mean, I may work for a large corporation, but the fact that I can work one-on-one with smaller and diverse businesses really kind of fuels what I love to do. So please, if you want to jump, you know, ask some more questions, reach out. I'm here for you. Best of luck to everybody on this call. Great job.
Thanks, Elisa. And Chris, final thoughts.
Yeah, again, it's an honor to be on this panel. Thank you so much for the invitation. And to sit with such practitioners and leaders. It's motivating to hear and see the bravery that everybody has to stand up and provide a speech and a presentation on something that they're clearly very passionate about. And so thank you so much for that vulnerability and allowing us the opportunity to make our observations. And from there, see how they can support you and move forward. And hopefully in future presentations, we'll cross paths again or future events as well. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much to our judges. This was a great set of pitches also. So thank you to Lee, Yuri, and Misha for joining us to pitch today. Before we move into communities and conversation, we're just going to take a 5-minute break. So we'll see everyone back here just a little after 4:20 Eastern time for communities and conversation. So feel free to take a break, get your beverage, and we'll be back to get to know each other a little bit. So we'll see you all in just about 5 minutes. All right, everyone. Welcome back. I hope folks were able to grab their beverage, take a bio break, and ready for some great conversation here today. I know I have my sparkling water that I'm drinking. Yeah, Misha's got her drink too. Awesome. So we're going to launch into just a little bit of community and conversation today, just an opportunity for all of us here on the line to get to know each other a little bit better. So we're going to have some questions to guide the conversation, but feel free to jump in if you just want to introduce yourself throughout today's conversation. So we've got some icebreakers to start off today. So now that weather is starting to get nicer and we're moving into the springtime, what are folks' favorite springtime activities? I can start off just while folks think of their answers. I'm a big outdoors person and I live up in Vermont, and I actually live right on the Burlington Greenway. And if anybody's familiar, which you probably aren't, but the Burlington Greenway is this really awesome bike path that runs along Lake Champlain. So I'm really glad that the weather's nice enough now that I can take my bike and take my dog and walk along the Burlington Greenway and get to look out over the lake and see the mountains. So that's probably my favorite springtime activity. But we can take the screen share off for this question and I'll open it up. So folks, if you have any favorite springtime activities, feel free to unmute yourself and chime in.
I can share. Hi, everyone. My name's Jessie. I use they, them, and she, her pronouns, and I work at NGLCC. I live in Baltimore, Maryland, and there is a park right down the street called Wymondale Park, and it's kind of an unofficial dog park, and I love to lay my blanket down and watch all the dogs run by, and often I'll see people I know, and I just love laying in the sunshine there.
That sounds awesome. I'll see if I can coax my dog to come in and I can show everybody my dog.
I'll go.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm in Martinez, California, and I love to just take walks and just rather than wonder where I'm going, just see where I am. And I notice all sorts of real cool things. And the other day, this is just the beauty of springtime, instead of walking back up the street this way, I crossed the street and walked that way, and I saw a bush that was shaped like a dragon. They actually put in like mosaic style eyes and like this hook that went all the way down, and they really like they cut it in such a way that literally the bush had like little things on the top of it, and then one of the legs. And I was like, when you decide to take just even a little smidgen of a change of your path, I see something totally different. The only thing I don't like about spring is I get allergies and I have asthma. However, I think it's a gorgeous time of year. So that's my favorite thing to do, is walk and explore.
That's awesome, Misha. Thanks. Anybody else want to share?
Well, just for fun, I'll share. This is Chris Douglas in Indianapolis, and like many of you, you may be in a part of the country that in spring, a special mushroom arrives called the morel, and it's always a little touchy as to when these mushrooms appear, and they're popular mushrooms to hunt for because they have a distinctive look, and you won't eat the wrong thing and kill yourself in the process. So I went out a few weeks ago looking after a friend told me that they were sprouting, and I spent a nice time pounding through the woods on a Sunday before thinking, you know what, today is April 2nd. And yesterday was April 1st when he put that post on. And I realized that I was way early for morel mushrooms and that it was an April Fool's prank. So I plan to go out again this weekend and try it again.
Oh man, those April Fool's pranks. I always get duped by the ones on Instagram that they'll post. I'm like, what are you talking about? And then I look at the clock and I'm like, oh.
This one had me all the way out in the woods in West Indiana.
Oh no. All right. Anybody else favorite springtime activities? All right, well, we can move on to our second question. So folks, I want to hear about what your earliest job experiences were. So what lessons do you feel like you learned in that job? Did you enjoy it? What did you do? I can start with my own personal experience. My uncle owned an ice cream shop. So my first ever job was taking people's money and putting it into the register. And then my cousin would help scoop the ice cream and would hand it to me, and I would hand it to the person through the window. So I won't say how young I was because I probably shouldn't have been working, but I really enjoyed the job and I got paid in ice cream. So it was pretty ideal for young Lauren. All right, so who else has a first job experience and what lessons you learned in that job?
Hey, Lauren, this is Annette. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Well, can I go back to spring? I'm actually driving and I couldn't come off of mute fast enough to get in. Do you mind if I do the spring one? Is
No,
that
of course not. Go
Okay.
for it.
I could try to turn my camera on, but I am driving, so I'm trying to be a little bit, well, not a little bit. I'm trying to be safe.
Safety
So I can
first.
turn,
Safety first.
yeah, I'll try to, actually, I can't do the camera right now. Sorry, I apologize. So this is, my name is Annette Setzer, and I'm with Corning Incorporated. I go by she, her pronouns, and I absolutely love spring. It's so, you know, everything is coming alive, right? So I think for me, a couple things I love on the topic of spring. I'm actually I live in North Carolina, but I'm heading to Florida soon, like tomorrow, and I love to paddleboard. So I'll be doing some paddleboarding. But the other thing I love about spring, in addition to the flowers and everything blooming, is it's always I look to see how fast and how early in the season I can spot my first hummingbird. And then I always put down the date of the first hummingbird sighting here in North Carolina, where I live. So those are the things that I like to do. And I loved being on the session today. So if there are any presenters still on the call, fantastic job.
Awesome. Thanks, Annette. And I'll echo what
thank you.
Rebecca said. What an awesome tradition. Hummingbirds are super cool animals. That's really cool. All right. Anybody else can share about spring? Can share about your first job?
I can go. I guess I can go. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
go
hello,
for it.
everybody. Yeah, this is Yuri Velasquez again. I was the second presenter. So thank you again to NGLCC for inviting us. And Annette, thank you for your comment. And so my first job ever, it was at a call center. I was still in high school, but 18, and I was working at a call center. It was just a part-time thing though. But it was just interesting how many clients we had. Call centers, you get calls from like relief funds, or we get like hurricane relief, or you get like 1-800 numbers, or like anything like that. And out of you also get like your answering service, right? So there was so many clients that I had to like switch my brain into. So one day, I mean, 1 hour, I will be talking to a disaster relief, from the Red Cross, and then the next time I will be selling like laundromats or something, which is very weird. But what I learned from it is that you had to be nimble and you have to pivot at a drop of hat, because in life, you never know what you're gonna get, right? You never know what you're gonna experience. You never know what you're going to have to deal with, and that made me realize that in the real world, right? Because I was still in high school. But in the real world, you had to be on your feet, right? And that actually made me a more resilient person, and more of a jack of all trades, if you will, right? Like I have a background in social work, but I've learned to do a lot of like tech stuff and a lot of like public policy now, which I'm working for Pixis. And I've also been involved in public health for the majority of my professional career. So it just taught me to be flexible as much as possible.
It's great. You're great lessons there. And my big dog is barking her head off. So. She was very excited about what you had to say as well. Sydney, I saw you came off mute. Do you want to share?
Yeah, I can share. So my first job, I'm from North Carolina, and it was working at a beach resort in North Carolina. So working at the hotel, which I think, that was definitely an interesting summer job in high school. And I think it was really fun just meeting people coming from all over the country and, sometimes the world, and just, getting to share a little bit about North Carolina and just meeting different folks and hearing, their stories as well. So that was a fun job, I think.
It sounds fun. That's awesome.
Share real quick.
Sure.
Oh, go ahead, Shelley.
Yeah, I'm currently I'm from San Diego, but I live in a suburb of Denver, and it's been a cold winter for us. I know you from Chicago and the East Coast, you're hardy people, but we're wimps out here. And we cannot wait to get on our bikes. So that is like, everybody in their bike shorts and on their bikes, and lines of bikers up and down, you name the street, up in the mountains, around the lake. So we're so looking forward to that. So yeah, can't wait.
Yeah, I've got a good friend who's in Salt Lake City, and
Mhm.
she loves when bike season comes around. So I can
Yeah.
imagine that being a lot of fun. Awesome. Anyone else want to share?
Can you hear me
Yeah,
okay?
Oh, go.
Should I go?
Yeah, go ahead, Max.
Okay, you hear me okay? Okay, I'm on a hotspot, so I'm remote right now. Okay, my first job, I was working in Hollywood on Melrose and Fairfax, and I worked I was in high school, and I worked at it's called Hollywood Beverly Radio Shop, and I was fixing radios, TV sets, and turntables, and our customers were from the people from the West Side, like from Beverly Hills, Bel Air, and they were really mean. But I was good because I was in electronics, so I would fix their turntables. And back then it was I don't know if you guys remember, it was Gerard turntables, Kenwood receivers, and yeah, that was my first job. And yeah, I liked it. Actually, I liked it. It was really interesting. Yeah, I think I was 16 years old back then. Yeah, that was my first job. And I got paid cash, and I loved it. Yes.
I can imagine. 16-year-old loving that. That's great.
$20 a week, and that was a lot of
Wow.
money. Yeah, back then. That was in 19. You guys know how old I am, I guess. That was in 1971 or 72, somewhere around there. Yeah. And that was $20. Yeah. And that was and then what happened was, we grew up poor. So we grew up in Hollywood, and we grew up poor. And so my mom, there was 4 of us, and we lived in a duplex apartment. And so my mom, every time I come home from work, she would run after me and get my money because she knew I got paid. Yeah. that was my good experience as a child. Yes.
Well, thanks for sharing, Max.
Yeah, that was my first job, by the way. Okay.
All right. Anyone else? I think we have one other person. Yeah, Chris, go ahead.
Well, I'll share the good and the bad of the first job. Was I worked on the grounds crew of a country club here in Indianapolis, and it was hard physical labor under a manager that was a very, very good manager. That really, you had to be there at 6 a.m. and work long hours, and so great discipline. And this was in high school, and a great experience. At the same time, as I reflect on that experience, is very relevant to the DEI question. The reality is that this was a country club that I now know racially discriminated, not just in its membership, but in who it hired onto even the menial labor jobs. So that was one problem, was that not everybody could get that experience, both because of racial background, but then secondly, it was in a location that you had to drive to. And so you had to have a family that had a spare car or a car to make available. And so Well, I went through a phase where I was really very proud of the work that I did there and the character building aspect, et cetera, and the resume builder. It's now very clear to me that experience was only available to some. And it was a great experience, but not at all an equitable one.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Chris. And I know I work with an organization up here in Vermont that focuses on equity in transportation and how important it is to offer alternative forms of transportation, because the fact of the matter is not everybody can drive a car. It's expensive, and it's important to make sure that we have alternatives like biking, like trains, like buses, that are available for folks to make sure that everyone has equal access.
And it was a minimum wage job, but not everybody that would even want to work a minimum wage job had the ability and opportunity to do it.
Yeah, even back then it was hard to afford a car on minimum wage, and it's only gotten harder with this day and age. So, well, that's really interesting, and thanks for sharing that, Chris. It's a really, really interesting experience. Yeah,
So-
Nisha.
Well, I was really struggling to figure out my first job. I've always had a job. It's like, busy knows how to be busier, right? And I was like, other than thinking, okay, I was 4 years old taking care of my brother, my parents have admitted that kind of like, they created the codependent that I am. Like I got to take care of everybody and then I can't stop. But then I thought, well, maybe it's my first job that felt like, oh, I'm in the working world. But because I worked in a bookstore when I was 12, I know you're not supposed to, but I worked in at a bakery when they had to actually like make a stool for me so I could reach into the baking things to clean them out. I worked at a hamburger shop, but I think my first like in the industry job was a shock because I'd gotten my master's, and the woman that I got the department head, we didn't see eye to eye because I got elected to be the teacher president for our union at the university. And so when she shook my hand at the graduation for my master, she said, "You probably won't teach anything higher than high school," which is not an insult. I think high school is great. I think middle school, all teachers are valuable, right? But I got back to California and my dad said, do some informational interview, just find out what people are like and what's out there. And maybe if something will align. Famous last words. I went and I had an 1.5-hour conversation with the French department head at the community college locally. We had a fabulous time. He said, "I wish there was something I could offer you. You're wonderful. I enjoyed being with you." And I said, "Yeah, me too. But thank you for this time. It was delightful. We shared the same author. I went off and ran some errands. I was like feeling really good. Like I was proud of myself for showing up and being visible and asking questions because I used to not be a very good conversationalist." And I'm driving home. So 5 hours later, I get a call. "Misha, do you think you could come here at 8 a.m. tomorrow?" "Yeah, I just want to introduce you to a few people. And this might be considered an interview." Oh, so apparently somebody had to bow out of their part-time teaching position at the community college, and boom, I was there for 4 years. So it's really cool. You never know what's going to happen. But yeah, it was hard to decide what job do I tell you about because I worked a lot, probably too much. But thanks.
Oh, well, that's awesome, Misha. All right, folks, anybody else want to share before we move to our last question?
Yep, I'll go.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'll say kind of like Misha, there's a first job I had, but there's probably a more meaningful first job that I had. So I was a caddy, kind of like Chris, got connected to a golf course for my first real paid job, but I wouldn't say I did it successfully or did I enjoy it. However, I was a server at an assisted living home in high school, which at that time, we'll go back in the day and say that it was paying $7.50 an hour. Hot dang. And over like the $5.15 that I think was like the standard at the time. So my friend already had a job there. He got me in. I didn't really care what it was, but I stayed there, went back during the summers during college. And like, it was such a unique experience because I was serving on a daily basis, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. The people that have lived their lives, that have stories, that were there during World War II, that, had a life, have lost love, seen their family come and to see them. And it was just being a high school student, experiencing kind of the bookend of life. It was such a unique chance to put in perspective what I would like to focus on and how to keep kind of autonomy as you age as well was something that was important to somebody who, was not even yet to be 19. So I think it's just impactful for sure. And I was very grateful for the opportunity.
Wow, that's awesome, Chris. Great. Well, we can move to our third and final question for today, but if anybody has thoughts that come up about your favorite spring activities or something else about the job that you had when you were younger, we'd love to hear it. So for our third and final question, we're going to talk about how the business landscape has changed from this time last year in 2022 to around April, May to 2023. Any lessons that you learned in the last year or just things that you've noticed and how the world has changed? I know it's been a crazy few years in general. So any big changes that you've noticed in the business landscape from 2022 to now?
I was gonna say, is this a trick question?
No, not a trick question.
Like, were we paying attention? Like, is this? Yeah.
Yes, this is your pop quiz.
Well, I would say
COVID.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Chris.
No, please, Yuri. I just would say probably COVID's the biggest one, but that's all I was going to say.
Yeah, so I will say related to work and not to deviate too much from work and stuff. But yeah, but working in the clinical trial, a medical biomedical research field, I think that COVID, right, related to all that, really unearthed a lot of the necessity or the need to diversify clinical trials. So I think that over history, we've had a lot of things that's happened with the government, sort of misusing or abusing the minority communities. But I think that we saw that the challenges of like when the pharmaceuticals were doing like the COVID vaccine trials and things like that, they had so much trouble recruiting diverse communities. So I think that that issue has translated in it's an ongoing thing. And now with the sexual and gender minority communities being attacked, and particularly the transgender community, it's also something that it's ongoing, right? So the social changes and things like that, I think. So which is good for our business, right? But it's also something that I'm passionate about because obviously I do belong to the community, and I have a lot of friends and family members actually who belong to the community. So it's something personal for me.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, Yuri. And I think that's actually a good transition. Lee, I know you were able to speak a little bit about the organization that you work with at the top of your program, but I do just want to give space if you want to say a few more words about it. I know you were kind of on a time crunch, so feel free to chime in here and talk a little bit more about your work, as I know folks were interested in hearing more about that.
Sure, thank you. So I have a history of starting businesses. I think there's probably plenty of serial entrepreneurs in this group that can understand that. And I actually have launched a couple of nonprofits in the past. So I don't personally feel like I have the time for this, but I also feel like my hand was forced. And me and some other people that have the resources to do so just decided we need to pull together and fill a gap that no one else was filling and help people get out of states like Missouri, which is where I live. So I put the call out to some people. I got a co-founder out in San Francisco who works in housing for queer people, and we just launched it. We raised over $1,000 in the first 8 hours and got a website donated, and it's up now. And we're pulling the framework together now and looking for a fiduciary sponsor. Transitional housing support for people in this situation, whether they're on the verge of homelessness or a little bit more stable, but you've got a family and you can't really tap into the resources that do exist. Like, we want to serve that whole gap. That's the plan.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So Lee, being that you have a founder from California, are you looking to help house people in California, like people to move to California, or is that just to help build okay. So
we have to not just move, but anyone who's helping the trans community. could now be prosecuted under, in some states, they're trying to use pedophilia laws for
Yeah.
people who would help trans youth. So that would include my organization. So we have to also be established legally. Our website hosting has to be in a safe state. Like, I'm so grateful I have a co-founder there. But yeah, our goal is not just California, it's any refuge state that is a self-identified, like through legislation, refuge state. We have contacts who are pulling together housing, and we're using the Airbnb framework, like literally the app, and we're trying to work with them to get into their Airbnb org program so that they'll waive all their fees. But even if they don't, our donations will cover the fees, and then our network of supporters will use Airbnb to just screen people, and then we will also screen those people, and we'll screen the housing network, and we'll just place people where they need to go.
Okay. And I asked just because even just on the street where I live, there are 4 homes here that have apartments and they're all rented right now, but that could be a nice resource. If I knew that they had an opening, I could say, hey, I could come to you first and say, hey, there's a studio apartment or a 2-bedroom apartment available, right?
Yeah. Yeah, we have to partner with a lot of people. We obviously can't do everything. And my background is in nonprofit work, specifically being the bridge to other organizations. So I think we'll be doing a lot of that. So if anyone's interested and could represent a nonprofit that would want to partner with us, we're forming all those partnerships now.
Well, as a queer woman and she, they pronouns, I just want to just extend my heart and hopefully I can extend my home. But thank you for the work you're doing. And I'm
Thank you.
hoping for your safety.
Thank you.
Yeah, likewise, thanks. And please feel free to, I think you put your information in earlier, but put your information in the chat here. So if folks want to get in touch and support in any way they can, that would be great. Chris, you had your hand raised.
I was just, yes, thank you, Lee, and my commiseration and support. Is there here I am feeling very old at 58, and 25 years ago more, I came out in the corporate environment here in Indiana and got fired. And in the course of 25 years, a lot of fights back and forth with ultimately progress. And even in the fight in Indiana on for transgender rights, there's been some indication of really significant move under current in support of transgender rights. And 2 things that I think are interesting that I wonder about Missouri, and maybe is Missouri completely hopeless? Maybe it is. But the first interesting thing was that after attempting to allow parents to prevent their kids from using their chosen pronouns in school and attempting to allow schools, or rather teachers, to override even the family's decisions on pronouns, it's interesting to note that the Indiana Senate suddenly and in the dead of night 2 weeks ago, with a voice vote, affirmed the child's ability to use their pronouns over the desire of the parents in school. And then secondly, stripped the protections for teachers who refuse to use the pronouns. And then the very next day, a federal court came out and said, and ruled against a teacher here in Indiana that was refusing. So the interesting thing in this sort of push-pull is that there's sign of both court support and popular support that is really, I think, increasingly strong under the headlines that I think gives some hope. And I can observe after 25 years of these fights that progress is possible and can occur even in moments where it seems most dire. So, and then finally, I'd observe it, it's what seems to have happened even in these conservative places like Kansas. on the topic of abortion, suddenly even their Supreme Courts have overruled their legislatures. I'm wondering, do you see any hope at all in Missouri on any of these aspects, or do you think Missouri is just not going to see progress?
I'm a pretty pragmatic, logical, kind of like facts-based person. So I would just look at Kansas City as a, we're a blue dot in a red sea every time we have an election year. And I think that's enough evidence for me to understand that to be safe, we probably do need to leave. And we've known that for a long time as a family that's been fighting local legislators and just sentiment. But there, I think I agree with you overall. The long story, the long game, there's a lot of hope. And I'm working with organizers who've been doing this work for a very long time and understand we might need to build a business model that can pop up and then be taken down when we don't need it anymore, which would be amazing. But it could be a decade, right? So we just need to do what we can while we're in this situation.
Thank you for your leadership.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Lee. And we always say at NGLCC, it'll be great when our organization's no longer needed because the LGBTQ community is fully equal in all ways for the business community. So we hope that day comes. And wishing you absolutely all of the best and for your safety and the safety of your family. And again, if folks can be supportive in any way, please let us know. We've got about 5 minutes left. So if there's anything else that folks want to share, it doesn't have to be on any of the topics, can just be anything you'd like to share as we close out and head into the weekend this Friday. All right. Well, thank you all so much for being on, and thanks so much for sharing and being willing to engage in these conversations with all of us here on the call today. And I hope everyone has a wonderful, safe weekend and rest of your Friday. And we hope to see you on our next Sip and Pitch Friday next month. So thanks so much, everyone, and have a great weekend. And we'll see you around.
Thank you for supporting us.
Thank you
Thanks, everyone.
all.
Bye.
Have a good weekend.